Om Shanti, Brother Eric. Om Shanti, everyone. And I have the wonderful pleasure of not only being in the company of Judi Rich, who's been to us before, and I'm so looking forward to that. But not only are we international, but I am actually calling from Peace Village. And you've heard us all talk about what a beautiful place this is. If it weren't dark outside, I would just take my iPad to the window and show you the beautiful turning leaves. And the ride up from Long Island was so colorful and majestic. I couldn't help but take video from the car. And I'm just so at peace with everything we've been talking about, the pleasure of having so many sisters around me who have what I have been trying to have forever and succeeding as you are all in dribs and drabs. And if I could, we don't have the audio on your side tonight. I would love to know if this month has helped you all with our theme of nonviolence. I know it's been a wonderful reminder for me. Every time the screen goes blank, I'm left with the beautiful words of Judi Rogers, who began the month by talking about relationships and nonviolence and violence that we don't even think about is violent. Sister Tina talked about nonviolence in communication and how subtly the mind controls how we behave. And Michelle last week, talked about and showed us some wonderful videos of the power of love with sharks, wild sharks. I want to know how she got the first hook out of the first shark's mouth when she was a human, part of the species who was responsible for all this pain. But the greatest lesson of the video, if you haven't seen it, is that all those sharks came a running with hooks in their mouths and let her go in and pull it out. And it was the most beautiful thing. And there were many videos this week, many wonderful things this week. And we're putting the icing on the cake tonight with Sister Judi. We've talked about attitudes. We've talked about the subtlety. So I would love to know, I wish we could open communication, but we can't, how it's impacted your life. I know it's impacted mine because I have stopped and paused anytime someone misbehaves, someone treats me in a way I don't want to be treated. It's not all that often, but the couple of times that I've had to encounter things that don't live up to the virtues that Judi talked about, hidden in all of us, buried under maybe lifetimes of sadness and sorrow, comes a beautiful soul. And you know what we say around here, we are souls, that is pure love, that represents the truth and peace and power and joy, that has nothing to do with choosing vices. And that's hard to believe in a world like this. But here we are in this world, having a choice every moment of every day. And here's how we do it around here. And then I'm going to turn this over to Judi. I have a partner, and my partner is God. And he can help me do, in the face of whatever situation comes up, he can help me be nonviolent. And those are violent words. Violence is violence. And we can do it with a sharp tongue. We can do it with a look of the eye. And to turn that around makes us a family in unison with God. And that's what I'm about. And that's why I do this show. And that's why I'm at Peace Village today. So without further ado, I want to remind you first of who Sister Judi is. Here's her bio. In addition to currently serving as the coordinator for the BK Center in Calgary, Judi works as a graphic designer. She's a fitness instructor. And although it may seem that the intensity of those two don't quite go together, she has put them together and finds that stillness and silence of contemplation are both incompatible, but she's found that the opposite is true. We think they're incompatible, but that they actually enhance each other. and create a sense of well-being when integrated. So I want to see how that relates to our topic in this nonviolent month, which is a graceful life. I've watched you dance, I've heard you speak, and you are the epitome of grace. So I would hope that this evening I can come out maybe being a little bit more graceful. So Judi, thank you so much for coming to us. And I know you didn't take a train and you didn't take a plane, but you're flying. You're always flying. Whether we're speaking or I see you in person, you are always so beautiful. So the evening is yours.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Thank you, Louise. I was really just enjoying your sharing. I was like, carry on. It's lovely. Lovely. Thank you so much. And it helps me to get a sense of what's been going on in the sessions this month. So we'll see if we can weave some of the graceful into this aspect of nonviolence. I think there's a huge overlap, actually. So I just want to say before I start, this focus is on grace and graceful, but you can very easily insert whatever quality is meaningful to you. It's just a formula we're giving. So if a compassionate life is more meaningful, or a loveful life, or a peaceful life, just whatever value is meaningful to you, insert that into the formula. And then I think it will be something that you're more interested to experiment and explore for yourself. But since grace has been an interest and a focus for a large part of this life, for me, that's what I will speak through that lens, but again, personalize it for yourself. So I started this life actually, came into this world, if you will, this body, at a hospital that was operated by the Salvation Army here in Calgary. And the name of the hospital was the Grace Hospital. So right from the start, there was a stamp of really being so interested in this quality, and coming into a spiritual study has really deepened my appreciation. But before that, as a child, I had very unique parents. They really like to expose us to all of what we call the classical arts, opera and symphony. And they put us in ballet classes. I don't know, maybe they thought it would help coordination. Maybe they thought it would keep us out of trouble. But we landed up in ballet class, which ballet is very much known for this aspect of grace. And it really spoke to something inside of me at a qualitative level to be in ballet. I can't say physically I really looked like a ballerina, but there was a quality within me, and I didn't have the language as a child of soul, etc. But I would say that's probably what was going on. Whatever the body was about, for me, the soul, the qualities of ballet, this incredible, and we'll talk about it more, this blend of power and just such gentleness, such softness, really, really spoke to me. Bringing that inner calm into action really, really spoke to me. And that's where I think it will overlap with the nonviolence theme. So growing up with this idea of grace and the aspects of it that I found myself exploring, especially coming into spirituality, was discovering this spiritual quality of grace, what that feels like for the soul. We'll be using examples of dance, what it might look like in expression, but hopefully you'll be able to stay connected to the point, what it feels like inside for the soul. And then what it looks like in interaction, and that's where the non-violence comes in, what it looks like in interaction and responding. And then that famous saying we have, the grace of God what does this have to do in our relationship with God, this idea of grace? So starting with just the feeling of grace, and during the commentary, etc., or if you've taken the course, you're aware that there are some core or eternal qualities of the soul that we often keep repeating and inviting us to experience. We have a deep feeling of what it means to say, I am a soul. And those 7 qualities are, I'll say them, but you probably know them. This idea of peace, power, truth, bliss, love, harmony or balance, and purity. So if we look at this word grace or any of the other virtues, I always think of those 7 qualities are almost like 7 colors, and they've often been shown that way visually. 7 different colors, and I can mix and match those colors. I could mix truth with peace, and it will give birth to another quality. Truth with power might give birth to, say, integrity. So when we look at grace, and I'll get you to reflect on your own for a moment on this. When I look at this quality of grace, what of those 7 eternal qualities, which ones do you think we need to mix together to have this experience of grace inside, this quality of grace? What gives birth? What of those eternal qualities give birth to this virtue of grace? So I'll just get you to reflect for a moment on that, and then I'll share my own thoughts and the experience around grace. So just a minute for you to reflect. Let's see, maybe I'll put in the chat here.
We don't have, I'm so sorry, we don't have a chat tonight.
Oh, okay.
Open it up. It's okay.
No, it's okay. I can repeat them. I was just going to say
No,
the qualities.
wait, Eric is
Oh.
telling me something different. Eric, what's the
Yeah.
final word?
I feel like a rebel.
There you go. No, the chat is open for them to comment to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Just so you can see them again. I think that's all of them. While you're reflecting. So how would you blend those qualities
Hold on.
to come up? Oh, I have purity twice.
Purity twice.
Oh, ignore that second purity. Although maybe we need a lot of purity.
No, it's good. You'll still have 7.
So what qualities of those makes up this idea of grace? And trying to feel it, this feeling of grace, however you experience that, in order to maybe connect with what qualities are building that feeling.
Can I play too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. I can talk, but I won't. Did you say 2 qualities?
No, I gave no limit.
Oh,
You
I
can
thought we were
mix and
mixing
match
2.
all 7 if you want. No limit. The clock is ticking.
Any takers here besides me?
Mm,
Come on, audience. You can even show your faces. We'd love that,
yeah.
right? Gee.
Oh, there's a face. Greetings, Jane.
I'll start with those.
Okay.
Hi, Jane.
Harmony, love, and truth. Beautiful. I'll give you a few more seconds.
At least we have some interaction. That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Even if you did this exercise internally, hopefully you have some thoughts for yourself. So one thing that happened when I was quite young is I learned about an actress, and you might know this actress. Her name was Grace Kelly. And because I love this word grace, I was really attracted to know more about her. But it's very difficult to really get to know a soul. We rely on storytelling, and it's tough to really get a sense of the soul. But I started to know certain themes kept emerging when she was being described by her peers, by the media, these same themes. And one that emerged, she was, of course, a famous Hollywood actress. Very elegant was how she would describe. She actually was said to fulfill her namesake, very gracious. And souls really, her leading men said she was her favorite because she was so cooperative, so easy to work with. So they really enjoyed the experience, again, because she had this natural grace, almost a natural royalty. And then, of course, what happened in her life is she became real royalty. She became Princess Grace of Monaco. And it's a very interesting thing that certain municipalities do this. When you become royalty, you're given a certain title. We've heard of Your Royal Highness, probably all heard that. But in that particular municipality, the title that you're given is, you may not believe this, but it's Serene Highness. It's not something they made up. It's actually the official title that they're called, Serene Highness. She was Serene Highness Princess Grace of Monaco. And that just sealed it for me, because that serenity, you really felt it from her being, that serenity. And that is for me, such an integral part of grace. So the building block, we call it peace in the list, that serenity. Very, very peaceful. So I know we're talking about nonviolence this month, and peace is definitely a quality of that nonviolence. So it always was this deep inner peace as the foundation, very, very full. The soul completely filled with deep well-being, deep serenity, deep contentment. When the soul receives complete peace, they're good to go. No desires. They're full, full, full. So this is the foundation of grace for me, is that deep experience of peace. And what really attracted me to Raj Yoga was this is the foundation. Om Shanti, I am a being of peace. But that was not quite the end of the story. It's not just being peaceful and say I'm graceful. Especially in dance, what I enjoyed was the capacity to bring the peace into action. That takes our next quality, a lot of power. A lot of power to keep peace intact as it comes into action, bringing that serenity, that silence into action. So I don't react. I'm able to respond. So when you think of that ballet dancer and that incredible self-mastery and control and such ease of movement, they make it look so easy, right? So we sort of almost dismiss the ballet dancer. They're not really doing anything. It's kind of fluffy because they make it look so easy. What we don't know is it's taking incredible power and strength to do that. So back in the Stone Age, when I was dancing, I didn't even bother to tell people I was in ballet because I knew what would happen. Usually you would be teased for it. But I remember a few years ago, a young dancer of recent generation was sharing her story. She was raised in a very athletic family. Her father was a professional hockey player, but the parents really encouraged the children to be active in whatever activity they enjoyed. So one of the children did enjoy hockey, the son, but the daughter enjoyed dance. So they were very fortunate. It was such that they could provide them with really top training. They both went to a school of performing arts here in Calgary. So the son was involved in hockey and the daughter was involved in dance. And there came a point in the school when they decided to give the hockey players exemption from gym class because of the rigors of their sport. It's such an athletic sport. So they don't have to take gym class. They're already getting so much, so much of a workout through their hockey. It's such an athletic thing to do. So of course the dancers applied for the same exemption, but they were denied. They were told it's not an athletic endeavor. So this is a very deep concept, and it applies to the quality of grace. We feel it's fluffy. We kind of dismiss it. It's not one of those heavy hitters in the spiritual family of virtues. But of course, it's a huge athletic endeavor to be able to use the body with that kind of control and ease. It takes tremendous power. So peace that is combined with power, and this is not a violent power. This isn't, if one is forcing the body, they will not have a long career. This is caring and controlling the body, ensuring that the body stays in proper alignment, and we'll come back to that. So this peace combined with power is going to give you that incredible grace. I remember in ballet school, there was one little dancer. She was about 11 at the time. And I was quite tall. I'm just under 5 feet, 6 inches. That's very tall. So she came up to about my shoulder in height. But when we stood side by side, her legs were the same length as mine. So really short-waisted. Anyway, she was accepted, very gifted, very flexible. She was accepted at the National Ballet School here in Canada. And after a very short time, she had to take leave. And you could sort of tell this might happen because she was injured. At a very young age, she had back injury. The reason being, she had that peace, that flexibility, that flow, but she didn't have any strength. This is a very bad combination. That is when there is violence. So this very different concept of power, which is to support that which is beneficial. Without that power, there is actually going to be a lack of care. I won't be able to control the movement of the body, and that will be violent. So I need that peace combined with power as I come into action. That is grace. Very, very full state, but being able to maintain that integrity. So that brings us to the next one, which we've touched on, this idea of love. Peace combined with power, able to move with care, really careful. And I remember once being in the spiritual headquarters of the Brahma Kumaris, and it was a retreat of some sort, maybe self-esteem, something like this. And at the end, usually a spiritual resource comes, one of the senior sisters comes and gives toli and blessings and congratulations. So we had one of our regional coordinators comes, Sudesh Judi, who's based in Europe. She came to congratulate us and give blessings and toli. And this is very rare in Madhuban, there were no blessings around. They didn't find the blessings. So they whispered in her ear, you'll just have to make them up. They'll come in front of you and just make them up. I've had this happen a couple of times and it's thoroughly enjoyable. So you come and you sit in front and you get what we call a drishti, this beautiful meeting through the eyes, soul to soul. So you came in front of her and she's just she's the sweetest thing, this Didi. So she's looking at you. I don't know, you feel like she becomes an instrument of God and God is looking at you. And then finally her mouth opens and she just said 2 words to me. She said, love full and careful. And it really stayed with me because when we hear careful, we usually think danger, be cautious, danger. But the way that it was said, it was full of care, full of care. This is a very deep form of love, so benevolent. So I need that peace combined with power to be able to move through the world with care. Even the way we walk on the ground, sometimes we stomp around as if we're punishing the ground. And when one is, if you watch a ballet dancer, they seem to be floating. But when one is in that real soul conscious spiritual alignment, feeling that deep peace, we actually move the body differently, right? We could get many lessons on posture and how to sit, stand, etc. Or we could simply become aware of ourselves as a soul, and we'll actually start to use resources in a non-violent way. We'll have the power to do that. So there's peace there, there's power, there's love. And my next one is one of my favorites, there's truth. So if anyone rides a bicycle, here in Calgary, we have quite intense, well, you do there as well, yeah? Lots of snow and winter cold. Believe it or not, there are souls here who ride their bicycles year round through snowstorms, but most of us are sane and don't. I'm so in awe of the ones who do. They've got snow goggles on and thick tires, but we put our bicycle away for the winter, and then we bring it out in the spring. And of course, you can imagine it needs a tune-up. So you take it to the bicycle shop, and they do something called truing the wheels. And what they're doing is they're aligning the wheels. So alignment is central to grace. So I'm going to try, bear with me, I'm going to try to show you an image. Let's see how we do. It might cut first, just bear with me. I wasn't prepared for this. So here we go. Are you seeing an image? I hope so.
Yes, we are.
Great. So this is not Photoshop. This is for real. It is not Photoshop. I know many ask, is that Photoshop? No. So what we have is we have a ballet dancer doing something called an arabesque on a bottle while she's on point.
Judi, I had to eliminate the row of people on the bottom so I could see the bottle.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to interject that.
I can try.
No, I got it now. If
you got it? Okay.
Press minus.
Right. Okay. All right. So hopefully souls can do what they need to do with their computer. She is on a bottle, bounce on. So
beautiful.
At this point, you're balancing on your toe, and your shoe has something called a toe block, a little circle of wood or rosin at the end that's hardened, but she's using it as a platform, and it's sitting on top of the top of the bottle, if you can see it. And then she is balanced there. She had to, for the photographer to be able to, she had to hold that for a few seconds. Now I want you to look at it, and really you see the bottle, and you can probably just see the alignment that she is having to maintain to be able to do this. That leg is perfectly aligned architecturally. You can see that there's curves, but it's stacking the structure of the bone. And there's a lot of compensation in the upper part to make sure that everything is aligned. So her alignment is bang on to be able, it's very true. And this was something about ballet. It was so alignment based, so much awareness. So you know the classic image of the ballet dancer, that posture, that duck walk, because it's pounded into them. Alignment, 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 until it becomes natural. You have something there. Oh, you're looking at your, I thought you were showing us something, Louise. So alignment, alignment, alignment. So who thinks that they can do this? Does anyone want to go out and try it? Please don't.
Chance.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing now. So this idea of being true or aligned, essential to grace. This idea that the true nature of the soul is extremely benevolent, very generous, very gracious, actually. If I am in that awareness, that alignment, I can try to, and this is where we get into violence, when I try to force something without being in the right alignment, that is violent. I try to be nice, I try to be gracious, I try to be benevolent, but I'm not in the right alignment. And so then it becomes exhausting for me after a period of time. And the souls who are on the receiving end can feel that there's something a little off. They might even feel manipulated. Why is she being so nice to me? What does she want from me? So we want to be in that true alignment, in the truth, in order to be gracious. That is our true nature. We're so full and content as a soul. I need to be in that true alignment. So that's required for grace as well. And the one that always intrigued me was how light the dancer looks. If I thought I was teased, who was really teased was any male dancers in the class. They were really teased. And I never understood it, because if anyone had any idea of what it took to be the amount of strength and skill they needed, even if this is the most undernourished ballet dancer in the world and only weighs 100 pounds, to still walk around the stage holding them with one arm over your head and looking really composed is no small feat. These are incredibly gifted dancers, So this idea of making that ballet dancer look as light as a feather, or the idea of, especially with the male dancers, those leaps, those incredible leaps, how they just go flying through the air, defying gravity. Baryshnikov was the first one to really promote this vision of the male dancer. His jumps were incredible. He could jump to the height of a person standing. He could probably jump over, and it's not like they're taking a running sprint like a gymnast who's jumping off of the vault or something. They would just be standing there and suddenly spring in the air and then land in such a light way. Incredible lightness in the soul. Incredible lightness. This is bliss. So light, so detached from the gravity. This is what bliss is, detached from the gravity of sorrow, of heaviness, of temporariness, all of these aspects of physicality. It looks like the dancer is defying gravity. So bliss is so critical to grace, to stay light, not affected, so intact with that lightness. So you'll notice with gracious people, someone can come up and completely insult them, and they still respond in such a generous way. They're so light, they're not affected. The gravity doesn't affect them. So staying very light, which doesn't mean that they're insensitive or unaware or naive. They're just full. So going back to that fullness of peace. So that bliss, that lightness, and of course, the one that's so obvious to us all, the balance, the harmony of that movement, the balance. The dancer is known for their balance. And a gracious soul does have that balance in terms of qualities. They can be very serious, very aware, very present, very wise, but also very light, very entertaining, very joyous. So I know that I often, because I loved track and field as well. I loved athletics, but I also loved dance. And I got in a lot of trouble with my coaches on either side, right? The ballet mistress was saying, you shouldn't do track and field. That's just totally counterproductive to your so-called dance career. And my track and field was saying, why are you bounding over the hurdles? Don't bound, don't bound. So but I loved them. I can't imagine not having them both. I can't imagine not having them both. The flow and control and power and flexibility and range of motion of dance so enhanced the athletics, and the strength of the athletics, the focus, the concentration, the sheer grit, so enhanced the dance. So balance doesn't mean one or the other. It is the harmony of seeming opposites is a state of balance. And that is the dancer's life. So, and that is the life of grace, being able to blend seeming opposites. You know, with Grace Kelly again, she was very, very young when all of this was happening, even as an actress, very young. And yet she was often commented on her maturity, right? Much more mature than older actresses. So she had that youthfulness. She was often a little mischievous, but she was also very mature and very responsible. And this is what made her so gracious. So to have that blending, that harmony of seeming opposites is balance. And the last one, which we have twice because you need a double dose of it, is purity. At the end of the day, it's a head game. It's a mental game, right? So much purity is required. And I suppose a simple way to describe purity is self-respect and respect for others. This is critical in grace, the grace of a dancer. It's amazing how, if anything, I've seen stunning dancers reduced to tears because one critic said one thing and they believed it. They lost faith in themselves. All purity was destroyed. There was one dance, we used to have to do these dance competitions. And there was a group of ballet dancers, and we really wanted to do a jazz composition, which our ballet teachers were not happy about, but we just loved jazz so much. So we begged, and they said, yes, okay, you can do. So we had a very gifted jazz choreographer, teacher, and she choreographed this incredible jazz performance. It was a group performance. It was amazing. The costumes were very simple because you didn't need a lot of sparkle. The choreography really spoke for itself. It was so unique. She was very talented. And there was a point in the choreography where we all go off the stage for a moment, and then we come on in what's called a canon, one at a time out of the wings, doing this kind of split sequence. So we come in one at a time, one after the other. So the first person to come in is really important because they're beginning that sequence. So we all went off, and the soul who was to come on first again was the first one off. And something must have happened because she went off, the choreographer was off stage, and I guess she had made a mistake, which no one noticed, but she made a mistake and her mind started to melt down. And she said, oh my gosh, I made such a mistake. Oh my gosh, this is horrible. And she's getting, and she missed her cue. She was so absorbed in what we could call impure thinking, right? Totally losing faith in herself. She missed her cue. So it was like watching a train wreck. It was like, we didn't know when to come in, how to salvage it. It was just a complete, it depends so much on the purity of the mind. And when I was a young dancer, there are two dancers that really stay with me. I felt were so gracious because of this purity piece. And ironically, they were also both named Judi. But one of them, we were in dance school and we had a guest instructor from the National Visiting, and he had brought along one of his dancers because they needed to choreograph a piece and there wouldn't be enough time if they waited till they returned back. So she came with him and they would have rehearsals in between our sessions. And we were just, we were like little fans. So we were fanning here at the back and just watching and enjoying. And, her name was Judi as well. So I felt a real affinity. And I remember watching her and she was a stunning, just like the photograph you just saw, exactly like that, stunning dancer. But that isn't really what touched me about her. after she would have a rehearsal, she would come up to us. She'd see us in the back of the room, come up to her, and I could feel this pure self-confidence and self-trust. It wasn't arrogance. She was very comfortable with herself as a dancer, and that was very unusual. Most dancers are very insecure and very competitive. She was very comfortable. She came up and she asked us about us, and we were shocked. She was asking us about us, and she cared about us. She says, how are you? How's your dance? Are you okay? You know, and she was so, this big dancer, and she's coming. I remember I was stunned. I thought, this is purity. This is purity. And this is why she was so successful, because trust me, when you're dancing, the only comments you get from your ballet master are corrections. That means they care. You will not get compliments. They will only tell you what's wrong with what you're doing. So you have to have a really deep sense of purity to survive. And the same with a gracious being, a graceful being, is moving through the world with the poise of self-confidence, self-trust, self-respect. So the blend of all of these qualities lead to this experience, this profile of grace. And so when we come to saying, the grace of God, we often refer to that as somehow receiving blessings or support or a boon, a good omen, without any seeming effort on our part. It's just by the grace of God, I will succeed. But what it's felt like for me, actually, is I get to experience, when I'm thinking about that being, I get to experience the grace of God, as in God has this quality of grace, the beautiful quality of grace, and I would like to be the same. So God becomes my number one role model, really expressing this quality that I also want to be colored by. So I like to spend as much time as I can with that being, that soul, so that it really emerges that capacity of grace, which is a mix of all the qualities, emerges that capacity of grace for me as well. And what that looks like when we talk about nonviolence is that I come into situations. I had this situation just the other day, and I'll end here in case Louise has questions, but the car I have, I was going up a very steep hill, and suddenly, although the foot was on the accelerator, the car was losing power. I thought I was going to roll back. So I looked in the rearview mirror to make sure no one's behind me, and all I saw was smoke. So I immediately got off the road. Anyways, the car is in the garage. I don't know what, it's been there for weeks. I don't know. So I remember I was trying to talk to the service manager. I said, I just have to go in and speak to them and see what to do. And I didn't know what I was going to say. It just felt very important that I be gracious, that I give, not take, give. And so the only thought in my mind is, I'm going in there with God. Exactly what Louise was talking about, the partner. I'm going in there with God, because God is always gracious. And if I have that company, that influence, it might help to shape what comes out of the mouth. And it was a really fascinating conversation. The soul was so stressed out and overworked. Crazy. And what's more important, the car or the well-being of another soul? So going in there with the grace of God, the idea of allowing that soul to really enhance, emerge my own capacity to be gracious. So rather than violent, because when you go to the car shop, you're like, I want this, make this happen yesterday. Right? But this isn't how grace works at all. Go ahead, Louise.
Oh, no. First of all, I would like to remind everyone that you can make comments or ask questions in writing, and we would love that. I'm just so overwhelmed with the beauty of your metaphor. Your extended metaphor of dance has been everything I've learned from the Brahma Kumaris. And I'm trying, as you're speaking and coming up with all of these virtues and making that connection with mastery, self-mastery, taking it on a spiritual level, it's all without ego.
Yes.
It comes down to, and you said it, if I don't have that self-esteem, if I don't feel that I'm a child of God, if I don't have that self-respect, and there are myriad reasons why we don't, we came from this, all right, we're grown-ups now. Starting today, I have the option to correct myself, not the other person.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't do it if I'm worried about my image or I'm worried about what other people think of me. So how do we help our audience who loves what they've heard all month and loves the delicious icing on this cake that you've put on the month? There's a mixture of metaphors right there. How do we help them do it? How do we help them do it?
One thing that, first off, my deep feeling, and it's what also attracted me to the Brahma Kumaris, is this basic feeling of the intrinsic goodness of every human soul. That resonated with me so deeply. And it's not like there's one black sheep. It's not like I'm accepted, right? That includes me. But also there's that feeling of, would I ever treat, we've heard this so much, the things going on inside, would I ever treat another soul that way? So it's a very interesting relationship with the self. And I think once one starts to get their priorities in order, and for me, the first day I walked into the Brahma Kumari Center and I heard the words, "You are a soul," for some reason, some translation happened in my head that said, this is the place where you get self-respect. And if you don't have self-respect, you have nothing. You have two choices. Either I go through the world with self-respect, or I go through the world without self-respect. Now, I don't think any of us want to wake up tomorrow and say, I'm going to go through the day without an ounce of self-respect. That sounds awful, right? But as you said, Louise, it gets very tricky to discern, is this ego or is this self-respect? And it's not until we react that we find out. It's not until we're hurt or insulted that we find out it was ego all along. It was so important for me, and I think for every soul, to be able to respect my fellow man. I knew if I could not do that, I really would never be at peace with myself. And I can't do that without the self-respect. So I think one has to be super patient. And the thing about dance is this word discipline. And I know we're going to run out of time, I'm so sorry, but this word discipline that people have very mixed feelings about. And it's something I so appreciate about being put in dance, is you develop a very beautiful relationship with discipline. It's a relationship of love for self, because you will need discipline to nurture the self-respect. There's no way around it. The old habits will keep coming back. I'm going to need discipline. I'm going to need a daily practice. I'm going to need to dedicate time. I cannot be the lowest priority on the list of things to do today. We have traffic control, things like this. Like, I don't have time to do it right now. I've got other things to do. And that's like saying, I don't have time to nurture my self-respect. There's more important things to do, which of course ego will convince me there is. So it's going to require discipline. And I believe in beach entry, which means starting very gradually rather than diving into the deep end. That's me. I believe in introducing something that's smart, if you will, specific, but attainable at this moment. So to pick one practice, daily practice for a period of time that I can do to equip myself. So it might mean I need readings or recordings or something. Here's a plug for the Lighthouse, something that's going to give me that support in my daily practice. But I'm going to need discipline, which is an expression of self-love. It's critical. It's the art of self-respect, the art of dance, the art of painting, the art of spirituality, of self-respect. So I think awakening that self-love is super important.
So, any questions, any comments in the chat, anyone? So many people here, for many people, this is a very difficult assignment. And I think the idea of starting slowly, excuse me, I'm having a little voice trouble here. But if we look at all the words you've used tonight, as you said, we can substitute anything we want in there.
Yes.
So if someone has never known self-confidence, I'm throwing you a curveball here. How does one behave as though they do? You know?
Yeah, I would say when I came into this practice, I think I recognized very early that I didn't have self-confidence. I did not have it, but there was a memory of it inside. There was a longing inside to have it. So again, the intrinsic or original state of the soul. But it became very clear I did not have it. So I was really banking on that longing inside. And I feel that, it's a bit like this is maybe not the greatest metaphor to use, but it's the one that's coming to mind, that wonderful scene in the Indiana Jones movie where he's so close to the Holy Grail, but there's this chasm, right? He has to cross this huge gap that has no bridge, which really is, like, how do I get there? And I don't know how to get there, and he's beseeching assistance or aid and this voice, this feeling comes, well, just put your foot out. It's like, that's insane. I'm going to fall and kill myself. It says, no, trust. Put your foot out. And sure enough, you have to do it with trust. Foot out, bridge appeared underneath. Foot out, bridge appeared underneath. So it feels a little bit sometimes like I'm just throwing myself over a cliff, like I'm not sure what I'm doing. I know that's what meditation felt like, connecting to God felt like. I didn't know what I was doing, but there was something inside that was propelling me to keep going. And every human spirit has that, and it's awakened at its own time. So those listening now, it might be their time, it may not, but it will be awakened at their own time. Something inside is going to propel them to move in a direction where it feels like they're traveling blind, but they're actually being propelled by an inner wisdom, an inner trust. It's there in every human soul. Even engaging yourself in these Thursday evenings is a sign that it's there and it's propelling you. You have to keep feeling it and trusting it.
This is exactly what I've been thinking the past 15 minutes. I said, the audience is here.
Yeah.
You've chosen. We've all chosen, including me, the MC. We've chosen to be here. And that automatically is our own vote of confidence and a salute to who we really are. And I love your metaphor of what's his name?
Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones. Love it. It's so magical, but we perform magic. When we don't do what we've been programmed to do, that isn't one of those pure qualities.
Yeah.
They're acquired dirty things we've picked up, and you insulted me, so I'll insult you back. And something, my hat is off to you. Before you take us out however way you want to, usually it's a little meditative commentary, but it's only 7:54. But honestly, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, this is the 4th week, and we've had a whole lot of subtle nonviolence, subtle violence, and what it means, and we've seen this and that. What is she going to bring us tonight? You. What is Sister Judi Rich going to make us rich in tonight? And somehow I knew you wouldn't disappoint, but you actually turned the whole evening into a magical metaphor of dance that has everything to do with all of us who've never put on ballet slippers. And I can't thank you enough for coming to us tonight. So will you take us out? Gracefully?
Sure, yes, I'd love to. So we know the posture of the dancer and how they would sit, but I invite you to sit now. It doesn't have to be physical. We want you comfortable, but to internally sit in a very royal way that you're going to meet a very important person. And of course, that person is myself. As I go through the day, I can have an ordinary feeling of myself at best, or completely forget myself, so focused on the outer world. But this is a precious moment in the day when I give myself 100% of my attention. Not the outer image, not the labels, not what people think I am, but I'm going inside, really being with myself, me, this vulnerable, gentle, yet powerful being. I, the spirit inside this body. It has been said that the human soul, which is life, is more valuable than all the diamonds in the world put together. There is nothing more valuable than life. That's me. Not because of who I know or what I have or even what I can do, just because I exist. And within me and me alone, a one-of-a-kind jewel, there's a special blend of all the qualities of the soul, unique to just me. If I'm busy trying to be something or someone else, that special, unique profile of the self, my own rare quality, will never be known to the world. So I like to go inside and reacquaint myself with myself, restore my relationship with myself, honor myself, so I can shine on the world's stage. It's not arrogance, it's self-respect. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you again, Sister Judi. It's just magical. It's not arrogance, it's self-respect. Love it. Brother Eric, thank you. Yes, Judi, you want to
I
say
just
something?
want to say thank you to you, Louise. You are a gracious host, really. You are a gracious host, so thank you. You are reflecting the quality that we've been speaking on. So I really, I always feel so cared for in your presence. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I am fortunate enough to be in the presence of only graceful sisters and just so grateful to have this little, I can't even call it a job, this little service. It's beautiful. And thank you all for coming and sticking with us every week. And next week, we will start with a brand new theme. I'm not home. I don't know what that is at the moment, but I promise you we'll deliver something and you keep coming, okay? Brother Eric, thank you. And Om Shanti, everyone. Good night, Judi. Good to see you again.
Om Shanti. Thank you, Louise. It was wonderful, Judi. I appreciate it very much. Next time, we expect you to be dancing on that bottle. We look forward to that moment. Keep practicing. Thank you, everybody. Walk with grace and share that with everybody. See you next week, 6:30 meditation, 7 o'clock our program. Om Shanti.
Shanti. Oh, do we want to announce the program this weekend, Eric?
We do have a public program for Diwali, and it's going to be Sunday, and it'll be on this same channel. The exact time is going to be,
I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me.
I think it's at 3 o'clock. So if you come on at 3 o'clock and it's actually at, no, Jane, what time is it?
3:30, 5:30, I don't know. Jane,
Yeah,
Come
she's
on,
trying
girl.
her best. Hold on.
oh, I'm sorry, I'm not
right.
prepared.
There's a note. Yeah, you come on at noon and stay until 9, and I'm sure
No.
you'll make it.
Don't listen to Brother Eric. Don't trust Brother Eric.
See where it goes. Okay.
It's the middle of the afternoon. Call Harmony House and they'll tell you, but bring a friend. It's
Very
really going to be beautiful. We had 250 people there last week for celebration of Diwali. We did balcony, whole place was full up. This is for the Brahmins. So you all come now. You got to beat 250. Okay.
It's from 3:30 to 5:30. Thank you, Jane. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, all. I'm Shanti.
Om
Keep
Shanti.
laughing. Stay graceful.